What's happening, guys? And welcome back to the channel. And last night in Andorra on the plastic pitch, it finished Andorra 0, England 5. And George, as we've said in the past, you don't learn very much from these games at all, but it was a good opportunity, I suppose, for Gareth Southgate to have a look at a few fringe players as such, and an opportunity for those players to kind of stake a claim, get on the score sheet, and perhaps force their way into his thinking for further squads and the Qatar squad for the World Cup. In terms of the lineup, a lot of changes. I'm sure you were very pleased to see the likes of Tammy Abraham. Maybe not so much Jesse Lingard, but Ben Chilwell getting some much needed minutes, considering he's not played much at club level for Chelsea. Were you quite happy with the lineup? Do you think anyone was unfortunate to miss out? I personally feel Fikayo Tomori was slightly unfortunate not to be in the lineup from the beginning. I think he's a better player than Conor Cody. He's playing at a much higher level, and he's obviously, I think, playing better than him at the moment. I think there's perhaps a little bit of Premier League bias there from Southgate, but otherwise, I think the lineup was pretty strong. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it was just, as much as it's a boring affair, because we all know that Andorra just aren't the level that we play at, and we know that we're gonna win. It's just a question of how many. It's it was still nice to see some of the squad players play. I mean, from that perspective, and just taking a back seat, I quite enjoyed seeing some of the players and seeing what players could potentially break into that first 11 or Southgate's thinking. But yeah, I was delighted for Tammy. I thought he played quite well. He did miss some quite obvious opportunities, but at least he was in the right position. Did get his goal in the end. Another one that stood out, I thought Saka again was very good yesterday. Obviously broke into the first 11 during the tournament, but he had another good game. But again, you don't really learn a lot, do you? Because you can have a great game against Andorra. I mean, I'm not being funny, but I could probably have a good game against Andorra at the back. Doesn't mean that I'm good enough to play the next step up. So yeah, we didn't learn a lot, but it's probably good for Southgate just for a squad rotation exercise and just to have a little see of some players. That's probably all you get out of it, really.
And those players that obviously you mentioned, Tammy Abraham, he got on the score sheet, as you said, he did miss a couple of chances. Do you think he's kind of helped his chances of being included in further squads? Or obviously, I think he's going to need a bit of a chance at a higher level against better opposition to be sort of considered for perhaps the World Cup ultimately. He's playing well for Roma at the moment. I guess that's all he can keep doing.
Well, yeah. I mean, the issue at the moment is Harry Kane just seems to be all out of sorts at Tottenham. So form-wise, I think Tammy Abraham has got half a chance. He's never going to start in front of a fully fit Harry Kane, regardless of how many goals Harry Kane scores for Tottenham this season, which in a way is the problem with England, isn't it? How many times have we seen players that just, we'll play Harry Kane up front, even if he has a terrible season, over someone who has, at the moment, been scoring quite a few goals for Roma and playing well, and scored again last night and has staked his claim. So he can only do what he did last night, which is create opportunities and get a goal. So yeah, I think he should be given an opportunity in the next game. And I don't think Harry Kane's a shoo-in at the moment. I don't think he even had a great tournament, but sometimes it's the status, it's the name that gets you into the England side, which, like I said, has been the main issue.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, I just long for an England manager that picks players on form rather than their name and their reputation. But let's be honest, on form right now, Harry Kane is in poor form. His head's all over the place. Hasn't scored for Tottenham this season in the Premier League. Already got 3 goals against some absolute jokers in the Conference League. But there are better English forwards than Harry Kane form-wise at the moment, and they deserve to be given an opportunity. I think Tammy Abraham probably should start against Hungary at Wembley, and just be given that opportunity to showcase kind of what he can do against a better opposition, because you don't really learn much about a player when you play against Andorra. But I mean, another couple of fringe players that were given an opportunity. I know you're a massive fan of James Ward-Prowse. I thought he was good in the middle of the park yesterday. He obviously got on the score sheet with a rebound from the penalty. Very unlucky not to go to the Euros in the end. Do you think he's done his chances any harm?
I think he's definitely one that Southgate will be keeping a much closer eye on than some of the players that were probably just in there for an exercise. He's certainly one in that bracket that I really do feel is quite close. It's one of our weaker areas, the central midfield area, and it worked quite well, didn't it, with Phillips and Rice in the tournament. and they probably still in front. But I don't think Phillips is having a particularly great season. Leeds are struggling. I do like Declan Rice, but I think Ward-Prowse is an overall package, certainly with his dead ball situations and his set plays. I think he's so dangerous, and he's a very complete player and tends to always give 7, 8 out of 10 every week for Southampton from what I've seen. So yeah, I think he is in contention. Again, one of those players that I'd like to see again start against Hungary and see how he gets on.
Yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, the central midfield position for England it's not great, really. I mean, obviously Rice and Phillips did well in the Euros. Got obviously Jude Bellingham coming through is going to be a very exciting prospect. Jordan Henderson doesn't really seem to be that in favour of England, and then you're scraping the barrel a little bit. It really is like, Ward-Prowse, Rice, Phillips, Henderson, and Bellingham. It's not a great pool to choose from. I mean, maybe the likes of Ruben Loftus-Cheek, if he carries on his form for Chelsea, that could be the sort of player that could force his way back into the England squad and be something different in the middle of the park. But I think that's still perhaps a little bit of a way off. But yeah, not blessed in midfield. But yeah, moving on, George, another 2 players getting their first goals for their country last night. Ben Chilwell on the score sheet, eventually given after a long consultation with VAR. How important is it for Chilwell now, George, that in this last week he's got his first goal of the season for Chelsea and is now his first England goal? How important were those 90 minutes for him last night, and as for confidence to get on the score sheet again? Because it has been a difficult start for him.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there. I think it's all about confidence, because I think personally he was probably a bit gutted about the Euros and the fact that he had such a great season with Chelsea and yet was not in favour over Luke Shaw. I think that would have hurt him, and from a lot of the reports and everything, I think psychologically it had a huge effect on him. And then obviously coming into the season with Chelsea and not being the starting preference at left back either, I think he was probably a bit miffed, considering a few months previous he just won the Champions League and had an absolute blinder against City. So really tough for him, because he didn't, in fairness to him, he didn't really put a foot wrong. It was just, I guess, Alonso came out of his shell at the right time and had some amazing games. And then for England, I think Shaw just really impressed in that first couple of games and went from there. So delighted for him to get his first goal for England. Delighted that he got some minutes as well. And hopefully, he's such a complete left back. I think he doesn't need to doubt his ability. I think sometimes the best way to get over something is just being given minutes. And I really hope, for Chelsea's sake as well, I really hope that he gets another push on against Hungary.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Luke Shaw obviously injured for this squad, but yeah, I think England are blessed to have 2 great options in that fullback area with the likes of Ben Chilwell and Luke Shaw. Obviously, Jack Grealish with his first goal for country last night. I think Southgate said in press conferences in the past that what's missing from Grealish's game is adding more goals to it and scoring on a more regular basis, like the other forward players in the squad. I think it's important for him to get his first goal, and it'll be interesting now to see how he kicks on from there, because I probably would say I'm a big fan of his, as are a lot of people. He's kind of a fan favourite in the Euros, but he probably does need to add a little bit more end products to his game in terms of goals and perhaps creating a few more opportunities than he already does.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I liked about the goal was the intent, 4-0 up to then still the goalkeeper think, right, we can get another one, throw it out to the halfway line. Grealish immediately, when the keeper's got the ball, is thinking, how can I get in behind? A lot of other players would have just been happy to sit, and we've got 4-0, last couple of minutes, we don't need to do anything. And he wasn't clear through. He had to take on, I think he had to shift it onto his right foot and get through a couple of players before he slotted it. But I agree, mate. Obviously my thing of Jack Grealish is well documented. I still think he's bang average as a player. Sorry. I mean, yes, he's like a Hazard in the sense that he sucks a lot of players in, wins a lot of fouls. And yeah, it does make things happen. There's no doubt about that. But I just think his goal tally is bang average. His assist tally is bang average. From what I've seen at Manchester City so far, I'm not particularly impressed. I don't think he's done anything that another decent winger hasn't done. But it's important for him to get that goal. And from an England point of view, I need to be less critical and think, well, he's contributing to our national team. And I suppose you'd rather have Grealish as an option, whether you start him or not, in your preference to have a chance of winning football matches. So in that respect, delighted for him.
Yeah, he definitely needs to add a little bit more to his game. I think that will come. I think it's important to remember that he has been playing for Aston Villa, where everything's gone through him. He's always been the star man. Everyone's on him. Whereas now he's moved up a level and he's playing with much better players. And that does take getting used to. It takes time to get into it, get used to a new system, get used to a new way of playing. A manager asking totally different things of you. And it will take time. And yeah, he's not been, amazing. He's had moments. He's got off the mark in the Premier League. Saw the great goal against Leipzig in the Champions League. Yes, he's struggled against PSG, struggled at Anfield, but it's all part of the learning process. And I think he will get there because he's talented enough. And from an England perspective, I think as you said, you'd rather have him in your squad than not have him in the squad. So if he can just add more to his end product, which I'm sure he can, then that can only be a positive for England going forward. But yeah, as we said, George, not much learned last night. Another 3 points on the board, as there always is in World Cup qualification. The big plus was to get through the game on the plastic pitch, no injuries. Andorra were quite dirty, a lot of kicking and hacking, etc. But that was to be expected. But to get through that game with no injuries, clean sheet intact, and a few fringe players getting on the score sheet and showcasing some of their credentials. I think a positive night, all in all, for Gareth Southgate and England out in Andorra. But yeah, that's just myself and George's thoughts on the game. We move on to Hungary next week at Wembley. But until then, guys, make sure you smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here, and we'll catch you in the next one.